Welcome back, everyone. You did well. That was good. You know, you talk about being ahead of your time. You've heard me say this many times. The future is female, right? Well, let's go back to the turn of the century. Let's go back to 1919. Even before then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Women wanted their voices heard. They were getting the right to vote. They were standing on their own principles, and they were making change. Fast forward, a lot of that is still happening. But the organization, the League of Women Voters, was really so far ahead of their time when all of this began, and to this day just continues on that mission of educating, informing people so that we become an informed electorate. And joining me today is a co-president of the Saratoga County League of Women Voters. This is Barbara Thomas. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. And Jennifer Wilson is also with the League of Women Voters, but at a different level, at the New York State level. And thank you for taking the drive up and coming up here.
Thanks for having me.
To talk to us. You cannot be, you have to be impressed, I think is the way to say it, that all the way back at the turn of the century, the issues, a lot of the same issues that we face today, those issues started back then, didn't they, Jen?
Yeah, and it's funny, the way that we actually started is women got the right to vote, and now we wanted to teach them how to use this new responsibility. We wanted to teach them about candidates so they don't have to vote the way their husbands told them to vote.
Right, yeah, got it. Gee.
And we still do that today.
I think this is where I exit stage left here. Barbara, you got to save me here, okay? So in Saratoga County, you know, I was just touching on the mission, but you really know the mission well. Explain it to.
Well, the mission is really to create an informed, active, participating electorate. So the League does that in a number of different ways. We do voter registration. We do candidate forums where people can compare candidates. And then we do public policy programs where people can learn in depth about some of the issues that come up in the public arena.
Now, when you talk about voter registration, that's an issue?
Well, yeah, voter registration
Yes,
is
okay.
an issue. It's something that I don't know how, well, like what the percentage of eligible voters is to registered voters. Probably something about 60% of the people who are eligible to vote are registered and therefore able
Got it.
to vote given the right circumstances at the time.
But that's kind of an ongoing challenge, right?
Yeah.
Voter registration. I think you were telling me that in New York State, this is a statistic that made me really sit up. It was that of the eligible electorate, fewer than 50% will vote.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We are ranked 41st in the nation in terms of voter turnout,
awful.
and that's high for us. Normally, we're 49th in the country in voter turnout. I mean, we're really bad at this, and we're bad at it because we just have poor election reforms in New York State.
You know, I do want to talk about that in a second, but I want to go to the other side here. You know, educating young people, informing them. You're involved in that as well, right, Barb?
Right. We have a program called First Vote, where we work with all of the social studies teachers, or almost all of them, in the county. And we provide them packets of information for all of their students that include definitely a voter registration form, but also a booklet called First Vote about how people go about the process of actually voting. What do you do when you get to the polling place?
Yes, right, sure.
You know, how do you get registered? Those kinds of things. And also some specific information like, is it more effective for a college student to vote in their college
campus,
district
or
at their home district?
Right.
And
I've heard
so
a lot
things
about
like that.
Yeah. You know, also the forums are the things that we always run into you. We're there to tape a discussion, a candidate forum or a candidate debate, and 9 out of 10 times people always say, well, the League of Women Voters is involved. You know, I happen to think that that's a particularly important part of what you do, because it's one thing to go in and just pull a lever because you believe you're a member of some political party. I say all the time on air here, Jen, that I don't care what party you belong to, it's the individual, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And besides doing forums, which all of our locals, our 50 local chapters do amazingly well, we also have an electronic ballot so that we have all of this information online. It's totally nonpartisan. The candidates put it in themselves. So every single year around the election, we advertise this electronic ballot. A lot of local leagues print it as well, and we distribute it to the community.
You know, we hear often that the best way to protect our democracy is to be informed. You know, and that involves knowing who the candidates are, regardless of party, knowing what they stand for, and then learning how to vote. You know, I want to, before we're finished, just talk about any of the legislative issues that you're involved with. Now, you're out of Albany, so you're down at the legislature all the time, I bet, Assembly, right?
And Barb comes down a lot too. But
oh, do you?
Yeah, we're working right now on early voting. We're trying to get it past the budget before April 1st. Right now, there is funding in there, but we're worried that the Senate is going to pull that funding out. It's $7 million. It's up to 7 early voting polling sites per district. It's 12 days of early voting, and this would really, really increase turnout in New York State.
Surprisingly enough, New York State does not have early voting. That was a surprise to me as well. Other things that you mentioned to me were campaign reform, pay for play. You know, these are issues that if you follow the news at all, recently down in Albany there were some issues with some people that were working for the governor. How are you making out on those?
Those are not moving along as well because they aren't really active in the budget, and because this case, the Prococo case, was so close to the governor, it's really hard to get those moved forward. Anytime you talk about them, it just leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
What about absentee ballots?
Well, we have them in New York State, but you have to have an excuse. I heard, like many of our supervisors at the Board of Supervisors meeting, sort of saying, alluding to the fact that, oh, anybody could get an absentee ballot. But unless you are sick or disabled or taking care of somebody sick or disabled or absolutely out of the county, you don't have an excuse. That counts.
And that's a constitutional amendment, so that's a
that
long
requires
process
a constitutional
to pass
amendment.
that.
But it's something that we certainly would support is a constitutional amendment so that people could vote absentee. And that would be sort of a form of early voting if we had that. Though it's much more convenient for people to go to a polling site and just stop in and vote when it's getting, close to the election. The proposal is for like 12 days before. That
Oh,
there
God,
would be
okay.
some
So
places.
if you happen to be, in Africa or something, roaming around in Africa. That's an inside joke because she was over in Africa.
And I did vote absentee, but not from Africa. No. I voted absentee at the County Board of Elections before I left.
Oh, good. As you can see, it's our most sacred right as a democracy to vote. And the League of Women Voters, whether I know the name woman is in, but they were telling me men can join the League of Women Voters. You can participate. But I think the most valuable takeaway from this is go to their website, lwvsaratoga.org, lwvsaratoga.org, and just learn about voting, the importance of voting, learn about the candidates, and participate. That's what this is all about, right? Well, thank you, Jennifer, for taking the trip up to talk about this. Barbara, great to see you again. And we've got an election coming up in November, so we've got some work to do between now and November.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you, ladies, for coming in. It's very nice to see you.
Thank you for having us. It was great.
Well, you're quite welcome. To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.